Sarge.
Why is there 3 of you? One's more than enough.
Yeah, you took quite the knock to the head. You'll be fine. Remember, if anything jumps out, shoot the one in the middle.
How are the rest of the lads holding up?
They're fine. Dan's got hit a bit worse than the others, but he'll pull through. On the plus side, Johan's managed to get everything up and running.
Good. Thanks, Doc. I see you've managed to get everything up and running. Good work.
Indeed, Sergeant. We can use this area as a command center if we need to, but I have found the location of what we're looking for, at least judging by the records. I planned out our best route, which should circumvent most of the hostile forces we've encountered on board.
I had a feeling that attack weren't going to be a one-off. I think it's safe to assume the entire crew have been corrupted.
Most likely. I sent some servo skulls to plot the route, and there are a few hostile groups milling around, but for the most part, nothing has come our way. We found a sentry turret in the armory. We've got it running, but so far everything has been pretty quiet.
What about near the target?
This won't surprise you, but each of the servo skulls went offline as they approached the target area.
Frickin' fantastic, mate. Always the way. Alright, lads, gather around. We're moving out. As you clever lot have figured out, from this point on, we're treating the entire ship as hostile, unless I say otherwise. If anything so much as limps towards you or smells a bit funny, you put it down. Understood?
So, if you don't mind me asking, Sergeant, what is it exactly we're looking for? The lady captain was quite ambiguous with her notes. All it mentioned was goods of inquisitorial interest.
Word is, something big is going down back home on Cadia.
When isn't something going down on Cadia?
Nah, something feels different this time. The Ordo seem more worried than usual, and they're concerned about the pylons.
The pylons?
I only know what we all know. They've thought to keep real space stable, but there's been another invasion, and the Inquisition's trying to research how to maximize the capabilities of the pylons. Not even the Mechanicus can figure that out.
What has this got to do with us?
Turns out the pylons don't like being tampered with, but the Inquisitor reckons our missing rogue trader stumbled upon a deposit of the raw material they're made from.
Really? Intriguing. What is it called?
He just called it Blackstone, mate.
I was expecting something a bit more exotic, I guess.
Wait, we're doing all this for a bunch of bloody rocks?
No, we're doing all of this for a specific mineral, Smithy.
Almost there, and Auspex is lighting up. Hostiles inbound.
Right on cue. Alright men, stand to. Let's do this.
Welcome to the second battle report in our narrative campaign. If you haven't watched the first video in the series, it won't prevent you from enjoying this one as a standalone game, but you might end up a little lost narratively speaking, so we recommend you watch that one first. Click on the link on the top right or down in the description in order to do so. Let's crack on with the show and take a look at the teams. Following the events of the previous battle report, we continue with the Inquisitorial Kasrkin team and their journey into the depths of the Prosperous Dawn. The ship was initially believed to be derelict with all hands lost until recent events proved otherwise. Despite being knocked out in the previous battle, Sergeant Krauser has recovered from his injuries with no ill effect. The team composition remains the same as the last game as no fatalities were sustained. Even though for the most part we're doing our own thing with the narrative rules in this campaign, as the default spec op rules are not suitable for what we're doing, the battle scars system is being used as is, and no one died as a result of the last game, which is nice, as the Kasrkin really need their gunner specialists. As you can see here, we have a melter gunner, a plasma gunner, and one equipped with a grenade launcher, as these all work well in Into the Dark. Even though a fourth gunner with a flamer would also work well within the tight confines of the Prosperous Dawn, I've taken the sharpshooter Ghost instead. He always performs well and is probably my favourite sniper operative in the entire game. Now, Demolition Trooper Dance is the only operative to have sustained a battle scar as a result of his injuries from the previous game. He's currently experiencing sapped strength, which reduces his weapon skill by 1, meaning he'll be striking with his gun butts on 5s. This isn't great because while melee is the last place Kasrkin want to be, due to the short range of his weapons, the Demolition Trooper can often find himself in close combat. Next up we have our final two specialists, our Recon Trooper Johans, who has some nifty abilities, but his main job in this game is going to be to provide another gun to the fight, and the Vox Trooper, who is again probably the best in class for this type of operative, as he's able to boost the action point limit of 2 operatives a turn instead of the normal 1. Trooper Smith, or Smithy to his friends, is the first operative with a battle honor. We're not using the default experience system that comes with Spec Ops mode. The campaign would be over before anyone increased in rank, so we're simply giving it to whoever we decided was MVP for their side in the previous game. He has gained the battle honor Kill Shot, which increases the critical damage his hotshot lasgun does by 1. Nice.
The composition of the Gellarpox remains the same as the last game, because Gellarpox teams tend to all have a very similar setup. Narratively speaking, only the brains of the outfit, the Thrice Curse, survived. The other models represent other crew members with similar mutations. As the survivor of the previous game, he has been given the battle honor Fly Swarm. Grandfather Nurgle has blessed the hideous corpulence of the Thrice Cursed with a swarm of flies which make him harder to see and hit with ranged attacks. Mechanically, this means he can reroll defense rolls of 1 if shot at from greater than 6 inches or pentagon away. In addition to the Thrice Cursed, there are 3 other Nightmare Hulks, which is a very apt description for them. They're all slightly different variations of the same thing, big, lumbering monstrosities which murder anything unlucky enough to get within grabbing range. The team also features 3 regular-sized mutants. These are deceptively good, especially in Into the Dark. It can be very easy to forget that each one carries a frag grenade, which can be very brutal in general, let alone when fighting in close confines, and is way more grenades than you normally expect to face. The team rounds off with a bunch of smaller critters in the form of 4 glitchlings, 2 curse mites, and 2 sludge grubs, who together will generally be causing a nuisance and grabbing objectives.
Today we are playing a modified version of Mission 2.2, Deadly Hangar, from the Into the Dark rulebook. We decided to show how players of a narrative campaign can make a minor change to an existing mission to create their own. We have tweaked the mission to better represent the battle in the cargo hold where the Kasrkin believe the excavated Blackstone is being stored. We began by setting up the terrain exactly as shown in the Deadly Hangar mission. The mission will be played exactly the same with the following change. Rather than the objective markers representing floor panels with energy cells to be inspected underneath them, they're going to represent crates that potentially contain Blackstone inside. Seeing as abstract objective markers don't really capture what we have in mind, we have replaced these with crates instead. In addition, to make sure we're not just playing a reskinned mission and to truly make it our own, the following rules were added. Each crate objective marker counts as terrain with the light and reversible traits. When the Inspect Crate mission action is played, that crate marker is removed from the battlefield, meaning the board will change and open up as we play. The Kasrkin will be deploying in the red drop zone and the Gellarpox in the blue. There are 2 mission actions in this game. The first is to operate lights. For a single action point, an operative that controls a control panel can either turn off or turn on the lights within the central chamber. If the lights are off, operatives that are wholly within the hangar and more than square from the active operative count as being in cover. The second mission action has been renamed Inspect Crate and tweaked to work with our other change. As normal, to inspect a crate, an operative within the triangle and in control of it spends an action point and rolls a d6, plus an additional d6 for every crate that has been removed from the board. If any dice show a 6, Blackstone has been found, and after the crate has been removed, a token representing the Blackstone is put in its place. The pickup action can then be used on the Blackstone token. When it comes to scoring, each time a friendly operative performs the Inspect Crate mission action and Blackstone is discovered within, that side will score a victory point. Finally, at the end of the game, for each operative that is carrying a Blackstone marker, that side will score 3 victory points. Tactical ops were then selected with the narrative in mind. As the Kasrkin are trying to secure the area, they have selected a tactical ops, central control, hold the line, and protect assets. The Gellarpox, who seek to destroy the Kasrkin utterly, have selected Headhunter, Execution, and Rampant Nightmare. As a result of winning the first game, the Kasrkin were able to set up a command center on the ship from which to coordinate their operations. Mechanically, this means they have access to a Mission Command strategic asset and start the game with an extra D3 elite points. A 3 was rolled, meaning they start off with a grand total of 15 elite points. Let's see if they can put those to good use. Going into turn 1, the Kasrkin are revealing the Protect Assets tactical op, and have used the Recon Trooper to take both the scouting option to change order as well as to select the free dash maneuver to advance the Demo Trooper down the right flank. The Gellarpox have chosen the option to change order if need be. The Kasrkin have the initiative and the stage is set. It's time we start the game. The engagement begins and the Vox Trooper uses his Battle Comms ability to increase the action points limit on Trooper Smith and the Demo Trooper.
The Gellarpox begin their activations with the glitchlings at the bottom right of the board. The first one moves up and opens the hatchway with its first action point, and advances forwards to take cover behind the crates. The second glitchling follows suit and moves forward to take cover behind the crates.
Eager to secure the flank, Demolition Trooper Dance goes next. He uses his first action point to advance down the corridor. He then gets out his Melter Mine and places it on the ground, and using his final action point to open up the hatchway behind him.
Back over on the northeastern edge of the board, the first glitchling is going to advance forwards along the northern edge, using its second action point to open the hatchway. The second glitchling in the northeastern corner opens up the hatchway in front of it before advancing through it and taking cover behind the crates.
Going back to the Kasrkin side, Trooper Smith activates next. He's going to use his first action point to open up the hatchway in front of him. He then uses his final 2 action points to move dash through the door, and he kneels down behind the crates here.
Seeing the Kasrkin advance into the room, the mutant with the hook runs through the door, chuckling to itself as it flips off the lights. With the lights now off in the central chamber, the next Gellarpox mutant advances into the room.
The gunner with the grenade launcher goes next. Not wanting the Gellarpox to have complete say over the lighting situation in the room, he advances and dashes through the door and takes up a position by the breaker panel on the Kasrkin side of the chamber.
Using the cover of darkness, the axe-wielding mutant steps into the room. The Kasrkin sergeant holds position and passes for his activation, so the thrice-cursed advances along the northern wall, taking cover behind the tanks.
The combat medic goes next, and he advances through the door and takes cover behind the first set of crates.
The tentacled bloat spawn goes next, shambling into the central chamber.
Now the melter gunner activates. Concerned that the northern flank's a bit exposed, he advances forwards to the pipes and covers that flank.
The lumberghast activates next and, living up to its name, lumbers through the hatchway in front of it, taking up a position inside the central chamber, waiting for the next turn.
Upon hearing the lumbering footsteps of the Nightmare Hulk, the sharpshooter goes next and opens up the hatchway before passing.
Eager to advance forwards, the 2 curse mites bound into the room.
Seeing the dark room fill up with targets on his Auspex, the Recon Trooper moves through the door towards the breaker panel, flipping the switch and turning the lights back on.
The Flesh Screamer is the last of the Gellarpox to activate, and it decides to move down the southern flank.
And for the final activation of the turn, the Plasma Gunner, seeing the lumberghast in the distance, is going to rush forwards, taking position behind the crate and supercharge his Plasma Gun. The Plasma Gunner rolls and only lands a single crit. A command point is spent on neutralized target, allowing an additional crit and hit to be made. 2 elite points are spent to upgrade the miss into a hit. The Lumberghast fails its one permitted defense roll. It has 22 wounds to try and protect against. With its first 11 dice rolls of revolting resilience, it manages to save against 5 wounds, which is above average. It then rolls the second set of 11 dice and again manages to resist against 5 wounds. In total, that means the Lumberghast takes 12 wounds and has 6 wounds remaining. At the end of turn 1, both sides have all of their operatives remaining despite the brutal amount of plasma fire that the Lumberghast received. Neither the Kasrkin nor the Gellarpox have opened up any crates, nor have they scored any tactical ops, so victory points remain at 0 for each side. The Kasrkin have multiple operatives in place. Their plan this turn is going to eliminate the Lumberghast and mutant on the right flank and to start searching the crates for Blackstone. Going into turn 2, they're not playing any strategic ploys, but it's important to keep an escape route clear back to base, so they're also revealing the hold the line and central control tactical ops. The Gellarpox are planning to continue advancing their hulks down the flanks, while some of the smaller creatures focus on taking out the demolition trooper and opening up crates. One command point has been spent on Rust Emanations. This will cause any Kasrkin operatives with an engagement range of the Gellarpox infected to count as injured. The Kasrkin have the initiative, so the Demolition Trooper activates first. For his first action, he steps through the hatchway whilst readying a crack grenade. Then, with the mutant in sight, he leans back and throws the grenade. The Demo Trooper initially scores 2 hits, but an elite point is spent to upgrade a miss into a 3rd hit. The mutant makes 1 of its 5-up saves and has to make 8 revoltingly resilient rolls. This roll is done in 2 batches of 4, and a total of 2 wounds are ignored, meaning that overall the mutant suffers 6 wounds. Reading from the shock of the frag grenade, the mutant charges the Demo Trooper.
The injured mutant rolls 3 hits and uses Relentless to re-roll the miss, resulting in another critical hit, for a total of 2 normal hits and 2 critical hits. The Demolition Trooper swings wildly with his gun butt, missing with both attacks. He uses a tactical re-roll and gets a critical hit. Realizing the desperate situation he's in, the Trooper then uses 5 elite points to turn the remaining miss into a critical. Unable to block all the incoming damage from the Trooper, the mutant deals 3 wounds to its opponent before being taken out.
With one of the mutants down, the next one to activate is the Plasma Gunner. Squaring off against the Lumberghast in the distance, he supercharges his plasma gun and fires. It's a poor roll, so a command point is spent on a command re-roll to turn a miss into a hit. 3 elite points are then spent to increase one of the other misses into a critical hit. The Lumberghast fails its 1 defense roll, so it needs to make 11 revolting resilient rolls. Refusing to die, it manages to ignore 6 wounds, leaving 1 wound remaining.
The mutant wielding the axe activates next. It rushes forwards and engages the Trooper, taking cover behind the crates. The axe mutant swings at Smithy. It only makes 1 hit, even with a tactical reroll. Smithy is able to land a single hit thanks to an elite point. He takes 4 wounds, while the mutant takes 2 wounds after making one of its revoltingly resilient saves.
Desperate to bring down at least one of the hulks, Recon Trooper Johans advances to the center of the room and takes aim at the Lumberghast with his hotshot las rifle. He lands 2 hits and spends an elite point to turn one of them into a critical hit. The Lumberghast takes its defense rolls but fails all of them, so it now has to make 7 revolting resilient rolls to stay alive. It only makes 1 of them, and the beast finally topples over, slain.
The Glitchling on the northern side of the board goes next, travelling through the hatchway to check the crates, but unfortunately finds nothing within. The Glitchling behind it decides that's also a good idea and checks the crates in front of it. Unfortunately, it also finds nothing. Shrugging its shoulders, it scampers deeper into the room.
Back over on the other side of the board, the Vox Trooper is going to do what he does best and use his Battle Comms ability to increase the action points limit of the Combat Medic and the Kasrkin trooper.
Moving over to the glitchlings on the southern side of the board, the first glitchling decides to throw diseased effluence at the nearby demo trooper, but it is unable to hurt the trooper thanks to his armor. The second glitchling looks inside the crates and with a laugh of glee actually discovers some blackstone. This scores the Gellarpox their first victory point, so for his second action, the glitchling picks up and pockets the blackstone, carrying the new objective with it.
With his 3 action points, Trooper Smith goes next, using 2 of them to fall back to the crates next to the combat medic. He then spends his final action point to look inside the crates and manages to discover some blackstone, which means the Kasrkin score their first victory point.
Smelling the warm flesh of the demolition trooper, one of the curse mites activates and charges him. A curse mite bounds into the demo trooper, landing a single blow. The demo trooper swings back, trying to fend off the attack, resulting in a normal and critical hit. Oblivious to the danger, the curse mite sinks its tentacles into the demo trooper for 3 wounds before being squashed underfoot. The second curse mite follows its brethren and lands a hit and a critical on the demo trooper. The trooper retaliates with a blow of its own, but it's not enough, and the curse mite incapacitates him.
The combat medic is next to activate. He begins by administering battle stims to Trooper Smith, rolling highly and fully healing the wounded trooper. He then picks up the blackstone in front of him, pocketing it and retreating back through the hatchway.
The 2 sludge grubs are next to activate and slither into new positions.
Next, the gun of the grenade launcher activates and he fires a crack grenade at the mutant with the hook in the distance. The grenade barely lands on target, requiring an elite point to be spent for 2 normal hits to be caused. The mutant rolls its defense dice and the armor absorbs 1 of the hits, meaning 4 revolting resilience rolls need to be made. The rolls are failed and 4 wounds go through. Disappointed that the mutant still stands, the gunner advances forwards and takes up a position behind the crates.
In response to being shot, the mutant turns off the lights and advances forwards to the crate.
Back over in the Kasrkin deployment zone, Sergeant Krauser activates next and turning on his night vision goggles, he moves then dashes through the door to take up a position within the room.
Next, the Flesh Screamer activates. It advances cautiously down the corridor and comes to a stop, eyeing up the melter mine with suspicion.
Peering into the gloom with his night vision scope, Ghost spots a pair of glitchlings in the distance. He takes aim at the closest one. The shot is harder than normal due to the curse mite in the way, so only 3 die are rolled, needing 2s. The glitchling fails its defense rolls and has plenty of revolting resilience rolls to make. It doesn't make anywhere near enough, and it's banished back to the warp.
Eager to close with the Kasrkin, the bloatspawn continues its advance.
The Melter Gunner is the final Kasrkin operative to activate. Aware of the approaching Thrice Cursed, he opens up the hatchway and prepares to reposition if needed.
For the final activation of the turning point, the Thrice Cursed advances down the northern flank and approaches the Melter Gunner.
The Kasrkin lost a demo trooper this turn, putting them down to 9 operatives. However, in addition to finding some Blackstone, they scored Protect Assets and Hold the Line, meaning in total they gained 3 victory points this turn. The Gellarpox are down to 11 operatives that have discovered a piece of Blackstone, granting them 1 victory point. Going into turn 3, the Gellarpox have gained the initiative and are spending a command point on Rust Emanations once more. They plan on having the Glitchlings continue searching the crates while the rest of the Gellarpox infected focus on killing the Kasrkin. The Kasrkin themselves have played the strategic ploy Reposition to move the recon trooper from one of the central pillars to just behind one of the crates. They're managing to hold the line so far, but they need to see if they can recover any more Blackstone and discover why so many of the crates appear empty. With the initiative in hand, the Gellarpox go first, activating the Thrice Curse, who advances down the northern corridor and unleashes its pie gut against the Meltagun.
Spewing fire from his gut, the Thrice Cursed scores 3 critical hits and a normal hit against the Meltagunner. The Meltagunner's faith in the Emperor holds strong as his armor blocks all but 6 wounds, and he survives against the odds.
Aware of the approaching flesh screamer, Sergeant Krauser blocks the way by closing the hatchway.
The axe-wielding mutant goes next, and spots an opportunity left by the Kasrkin directly in front of him. Pulling the pin out of his frag grenade, he throws it at the gunner with the grenade launcher. The mutant lands 2 criticals and a normal hit on the grenade trooper, but once again the Kasrkin armor holds firm, and the trooper only takes 3 wounds. The blast into the plasma gunner results in 2 critical hits. The trooper fails all his defense rolls and takes 6 wounds. The blast goes off in Smithy's face with 2 critical and 2 normal hits. He manages to save a critical and a normal, taking 5 wounds. Smithy is badly wounded, with just 2 wounds remaining. With his final action, the mutant kicks open the crates, but finds nothing.
His head ringing from the concussive blast of the grenade, the gunner knocks open the suspiciously empty crate, briefly wondering where the promised Blackstone has disappeared to, before focusing on the situation at hand, racking a frag grenade into his launcher and firing at the oncoming monstrosities. The frag blast hits the axe-wielding mutant for 2 critical and 1 normal hit. It saves a crit and a normal. Its revolting resilience blocks another wound and it suffers only 2 wounds as a result. The grenade explodes in the bloatspawn's mutated face for 2 critical hits. The Nightmare Hulk fails all of its defense rolls, forcing it to try and tank 8 wounds with its revolting resilience. It blocks half of these, taking 4 wounds in the process.
Seemingly immune to pain, the bloatspawn roars angrily and barrels forwards, colliding into the plasma gunner and the operative with the grenade launcher. With its writhing swipe, the bloatspawn smacks its tentacles into the plasma gunner's face, immediately incapacitating him. Next, the bloatspawn swipes at the trooper with the grenade launcher. It deals 4 wounds to the trooper, who is incapacitated.
The Vox Trooper activates and continues to do his job, coordinating the Kasrkin effort using his battle comms ability to raise the action point limits of both the Sharpshooter and the Recon Trooper.
The glitchling with the Blackstone, knowing it's done good, scampers back through the hatchway to keep its prize safe. Meanwhile, the other glitchling scurries into the room and flings diseased effluence at the Recon Trooper. The glitchling flings filth at the Recon Trooper, but fails to break past his armor.
Opening the crates as he wipes the filth from the glitchling off his visor, the Recon Trooper is pleased to find some Blackstone within. He picks up the Blackstone and retreats back towards the corner of the room.
Back over on the other side of the room, the Gellarpox mutant with the hook observes the crate at its feet and reaches down to open it up. To its dark joy, it finds Blackstone inside, and so spends its second action point to pick up the treasure within.
Through ragged breathing, the injured Smithy looks up at the tentacled beast that just knocked out 2 of his squad mates. Gritting his teeth against the pain, he raises his rifle and fires. He needs 5s to hit due to being injured. A single hit is landed, so an elite point is spent to upgrade it into a critical hit. Alas, it's all for nothing as the shot harmlessly bounces off the Hulk's demonic hide. Ever the professional Trooper Smith suppresses the welling sense of despair and charges the beast.
The final glitchling activates and moves up to the crate, opening it up and finding Blackstone inside.
Back over in the Kasrkin's corner, Ghost looks down his rifle's scope at the curse mite in the distance. He squeezes the trigger and easily dispatches it. He then advances into the room up to the crates. Thanks to his boosted APL limit, he wrestles control of the crates from the bloat spawn and finds Blackstone within, granting the Kasrkin an extra victory point.
The sludge grubs, having no immediate targets, slither forwards further into the room.
The combat medic is next. He closes the hatchway in front of him and pulls back, anticipating extraction from the area in the next turn.
Roaring in frustration at the lack of targets, the Flesh Screamer charges forward, stepping on top of the Malta mine. It goes off, and after hit rolls, saves, and revolting resilience rolls are made, the Flesh Screamer takes 10 wounds.
This just leaves the injured Melter Gunner, who turns to face his Melter Gun at the Thrice Cursed and fires. The injured Melter Gunner scores a critical hit and spends 1 command point on neutralized target to reroll his misses. These remain misses, but he spends an elite point to upgrade one of them into a normal hit. The Thrice Curse fails its 1 defense roll but saves 7 of the 13 wounds thanks to its revolting resilience. It's been a brutal battle so far, and the Kasrkin have managed to recover some Blackstone, but there's definitely a lot less than they had been led to believe. It's time for them to start extracting from the operations area and report back to the Inquisitor. The Gellarpox are going to split their focus between trying to incapacitate the remaining Kasrkin, while the mutant and glitchlings carrying the Blackstone flee to safety. Kasrkin have the initiative, and with the roars of the Flesh Screamer coming from just around the corner, the Recon Trooper activates and closes the bulkhead door behind him and passes his second action.
Spending a command point on Barge, the bloat spawn moves away from Trooper Smith and positions itself in the middle of the 3 Kasrkin up by the wall, unleashing its tentacles in a swiping attack. The bloat spawn rolls a crit and a normal on the marksman, who is unable to land even a single return blow. It's enough to incapacitate the marksman. This time the bloat spawn only lands a single hit. The sergeant is no slouch in melee though, and uses an elite point to get a crit and 3 normals. Despite taking 3 wounds, Krauser deals 13 wounds back to the bloat spawn. It saves 5 wounds through revolting resilience, but takes 8. The now injured bloat spawn strikes the Recon Trooper twice, dealing 3 wounds, but the Recon Trooper is able to parry the second blow. Another swipe at the Recon Trooper using Frightening Onslaught results in no successful hits by the bloat spawn, but the Recon Trooper, despite being injured from rust emanations, lands 3 hits on the Hulk. He uses an elite point to upgrade 1 hit to a critical. Not even the Hulk's revolting resilience can save it from the Recon Trooper's own Frightening Onslaught, and it's taken out.
With the way cleared before him, Trooper Smith rushes forwards and picks up the Blackstone.
Seeing the Kasrkin Trooper in front of it rush forward and scoop up the Blackstone, the glitchling activates, picking up the Blackstone in front of it, and running backwards towards the door behind it.
The Vox Trooper activates next, and is once again double tapping his battle comms ability, increasing the action points limit for both the Melter Gunner and Sergeant Krauser.
Not wanting the Melter Gunner to capitalize on being able to fall back and fire his Melter Gun, the Thrice Curse lashes out at the Trooper. The Thrice Curse lands 3 critical hits and uses Rending to upgrade the normal hit to a crit, incapacitating the Melter Gunner. He then advances into the room, eager to prevent the Kasrkin from escaping.
Ordering his men to fall back, Sergeant Krauser revs up his chainsword and charges at the glitchling in order to buy them some time. Despite his chainsword slowly rusting, the sergeant strikes the glitchling with a single hit, which he upgrades into a critical by spending an elite point. The glitchling saves 2 of the 5 wounds with its revolting resilience, but goes down. And with the glitchling dispatch, Sergeant Krauser calmly turns to face the axe-wielding mutant and uses his extra action point to fire off a supercharged plasma shot at it. Sergeant Krauser hits with 2 crits and a regular hit, but spends an elite point to upgrade a miss into an additional hit. The mutant manages to block one of the crits and has to roll 15 revolting resilient rolls, but the damage is too much and it's taken out.
Drawn by the scent of warm living flesh, the sludge grub spits acid at the Kasrkin sergeant. The sludge grub manages to hit the sergeant for a crit and a normal hit. The sergeant's armor saves him from the worst of the damage, but he still takes 3 wounds from the acid splash. The second sludge grub moves up, spitting acid at the sergeant, eager to close in on the potential feast. The sludge grub only manages a single critical hit, but this time Krauser's armor fails him and he suffers another 3 wounds, incapacitating him.
Too exhausted and wounded to continue fighting, Sergeant Krauser hears the reports of his men extracting from the area. Nursing his injuries, the sergeant pulls back from the room to rejoin his squad. We'll get to the final scores and our outro cutscene in just a second, so stick around for that. We just want to take a quick moment to thank our wonderful patrons whose support has helped make this video possible, as well as those who lent their voice acting talents to the project to help make it the best it could be. Specifically Storm Terror, Messiahside, and the Thunder from Down Under himself, Reese from Three's the Wound. He has a dedicated Kill Team channel on YouTube and stars on the fantastic Kill Team Casuals podcast, links down below. Please click the like button if you enjoyed the video and hit subscribe and the notification bell if you want to see more in the future. If you really like what we do here and want to help us make more of these videos, consider signing up to our Patreon, where as a thank you, members get access to our videos early, as well as our private Discord server where you can speak to us directly. As an extra thank you to those who support us at the Interrogator level and above, you can get access to behind the scenes videos, such as our latest series, where Jester and I provide DVD style commentary to our battle reports, reacting to what's happening on screen and letting you in on any interesting tales we have about the game itself. For now, let's get back to the Prosperous Dawn. Both sides hold 3 objectives each, but the Kasrkin have managed to score protect assets a second time, giving them the edge. The final scores have the Kasrkin at 14 victory points to the Gellarpox's 13. A very slim victory to the Kasrkin, but unfortunately for them, they're not going to have the opportunity to celebrate.
Are the modifications to the Gellar field ready? Is the ritual finished?
Yes, Master. The Neverborn are scratching upon the walls. They wish to be unleashed.
Grandfather, curse you. What are you waiting for? Do it!
MacLeod, do you read? I say again, Inquisitor. Do you copy?
Yes, Sergeant. Status report.
We've encountered a large hostile force on board. All of the crew have been warp corrupted, but it gets worse.
Unfortunate. Did you manage to locate the Blackstone samples?
We found a few samples, but most of the storage containers were empty, Lord.
Empty? That cannot be. You must...
Inquisitor? The Lord? Frag, comes are at.
Sergeant?
What is it, Johnny?
By the Emperor, not them!